I always thought my husband and I were a team. Not just any team, but the team. The kind you see in movies, finishing each other's sentences, making every big decision together. For 10 years, I lived in that beautiful illusion. But it all came crashing down the day I got home and found out he'd invited his mother to live with us. Without ever even mentioning it to me. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. A decision that had already been made for me. And that was the moment I realized, with a clarity that hit me like a ton of bricks. My husband doesn't respect me. It's funny how you can build a whole reality in your mind, so convincing that you never think to question it. For a decade, Mark and I were, I thought, the perfect partnership. We met in our early 20s, full of dreams, thinking we could do anything. We weren't just in love, we were building a life together. I remember when we bought our first car. We spent weeks researching, making spreadsheets, test driving a dozen models. We argued about colors and financing over late-night pizza. When we finally drove it off the lot, we had this shared thrill. It was our car, something we'd accomplished together. Everything was like that. Our first apartment? We must have looked at 30 places, vetoing them for the smallest things: bad lighting, not enough closets, a weird vibe. It had to be unanimous. When we finally found our home, the one I'm in right now, it felt like a huge win. We painted the walls together, we struggled with those little Allen keys to assemble furniture, laughing and getting frustrated. Every corner of this house held a memory of a decision we made together. Our life was a series of these shared choices, big and small. We planned vacations together, set financial goals together. We talked about everything. Or at least, I thought we did. His relationship with his mom, Carol, was something I'd always just seen as a sweet part of who he was. He was a good son. He called her every single day on his way home from work. The conversations were always pretty much the same. A quick check-in about her day, her health, the neighborhood gossip. I thought it was endearing. When her husband, Mark's dad, passed away about 5 years into our marriage, he naturally got even more protective of her. The calls got longer. The weekend visits happened more often. I really saw his devotion as a good thing. I figured if he loved his mother that fiercely, he must love me fiercely too. I'd hear him on the phone, calming her down about a weird noise she heard or a bill she didn't understand. "Don't worry, Mom. I'll handle it," he'd say. I never saw it as a red flag. I saw it as kindness. I completely missed that this dynamic, this role he played as his mom's protector and decision-maker, was a whole separate part of his life that had nothing to do with our partnership. I thought I was the co-captain of our ship, but I was totally oblivious that he was captaining another ship on his own. And it was on a direct collision course with our life. The day the illusion shattered started like any other Tuesday. I left my job as a graphic designer, feeling tired but good. I remember thinking about what to make for dinner, looking forward to a quiet night with Mark, maybe watching a show. That was our comfortable rhythm. I walked in and found him in the living room, and he had this strange, nervous energy. He was tidying things that didn't need to be tidied, which is always a dead giveaway that something's on his mind. I kicked off my shoes and asked him how his day was. Fine, he said, way too quickly. "Listen, we need to talk." I sat on the sofa, expecting him to tell me something about work or a surprise he was planning. He sat across from me, leaning forward. "So," he started, "I was talking to Mom today." I nodded. Of course he was. It was Tuesday. "She's been really lonely," he went on, "and the house is just too much for her. The stairs, the upkeep. She's worried about being alone if something happens." I felt a pang of sympathy. Carol was a good person, and I hated the thought of her feeling unsafe. "That's terrible," I said. "Maybe we could look into some services for her? Or hire someone to help with the yard." He just shook his head, this dismissive little gesture I'd seen him use on other people, but never on me. No, I figured it out. It's all sorted." And then he said the words that split my life into a before and an after. "Mom is going to come live with us. She's moving in at the end of next month." The words just hung there in the air. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. I was so sure he was joking I almost laughed. But his face was dead serious. There was no question in his voice. It was a declaration. A decision that had been made without me. "You're kidding, right?" I finally managed to say. "No, why would I kid about that? It makes perfect sense. We have the spare room, she needs our help. It's my mom, Sarah. What was I supposed to do, just let her struggle?" The room suddenly felt like it was closing in on me. Every decision we'd ever made together flashed through my mind. The car, the apartment, the stupid color of the bathroom towels. We debated for a week over the towels. And now, he was single-handedly deciding to move another person into our home, into our marriage, and presenting it to me like he'd decided to try a new brand of coffee. The feeling that washed over me was cold and sharp. It wasn't just shock. It was this profound feeling of being erased. It was as if he'd looked at our entire 10-year partnership and decided it was completely irrelevant. My opinion, my comfort, my role as his partner. None of it was part of his calculation. The decision was made between him and his mother. I wasn't his partner, I was a roommate being told a new tenant was moving in. In that single moment, he wasn't my husband. He was his mother's son, and I was just a bystander in his life. The argument we had right after that was like nothing we'd ever had before. Our old disagreements were debates. This was a confrontation. I tried to explain, my voice shaking with hurt and anger, how completely blindsided I felt. "Mark, this isn't about not wanting to help your mom," I pleaded. "This is about you making a huge decision that affects my entire life, our life, without having a single conversation with me. You didn't ask me. You told me. Don't you see the difference?" He just stared at me, his face a mask of defensive anger. "I don't get what the big deal is," he said, his voice rising. "You're blowing this way out of proportion. She needs us. I'm sorry, but my mother's well-being is a priority. I would have thought it would be a priority for you too." And there it was. The accusation. That I was selfish. That I didn't care about his mother. He wasn't hearing me at all. He was twisting my hurt into a flaw in my character, making it my fault. The conversation just went in circles, with him defending his decision and me feeling more and more invisible. In the weeks that followed, the disrespect was something I could feel in the air. Mark started prepping for Carol's arrival. The spare room, which had been my home office, my creative space, was the first thing to go. It was the one room in the house that was truly mine. One Saturday, I came home from grocery shopping to find Mark and his brother hauling my desk out. "What are you doing?" I asked, my heart sinking. "Just getting the room ready for Mom," he said, without even looking at me. "We need to get a proper bed in here." He didn't ask. He didn't suggest we find another place for my things. My space was just gone. It was like a physical symbol of what was happening to our marriage. My needs and my identity in our home were being packed away to make room for his mother. When Carol moved in, the whole feeling in our home changed instantly. The easy quiet we used to have was gone, replaced by this constant buzz of conversation that I wasn't a part of. My peaceful morning coffee ritual was now filled with Carol's running commentary on the news. Evenings, when Mark and I used to reconnect, were now all about Carol's doctor's appointments or stories from her past. Carol herself wasn't a bad person, but her being there created this undeniable strain. She would help in the kitchen by rearranging my spice rack into an order that made no sense, or re-washing dishes she said weren't clean enough. They were small things, but they were constant reminders that this wasn't really my home anymore. The most painful part, though, was watching Mark. It was like he was regressing right in front of me. With his mother there, he wasn't my husband or my equal partner anymore. He was her son, first and foremost. If I said I was cold, Carol would say she felt a bit warm, and the heat would stay off. If I suggested a movie, he'd turn to his mom first and ask, "Mom, would you like that?" Her preference always won. It was gut-wrenching to watch. He was constantly torn between me and her, and time after time, he chose her. I started to feel like a guest in my own life, a third wheel in the relationship that was now between my husband and his mother. Before I tell you what happened next, what finally pushed me to my breaking point. If any of this sounds familiar to you, if you've ever felt unheard or invisible in your own relationship, please take a second to like this video and subscribe. It really helps me know that I'm not the only one, and maybe sharing this can help someone else feel less alone too. The breaking point wasn't about the laundry or the thermostat. It was about our future. For years, Mark and I had been saving for a trip to Japan. It was our ultimate dream. We had a jar for spare change, a special savings account, a folder full of travel ideas. It was the symbol of US. One evening, about 3 months after Carol moved in, I was doing our monthly budget. I logged into our joint savings account, the one labeled Japan Dream, and my blood ran cold. More than half the money was gone. A single transfer of $10,000, made 3 days earlier. I felt sick. My mind raced. Were we hacked? Was it a bank error? I walked into the living room, where Mark and Carol were watching TV. My hand was shaking as I held up my laptop. "Mark," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "Where did $10,000 from our Japan fund go?" He flinched. He wouldn't look at me. He glanced at his mother, then at the floor. Carol immediately chirped up. "Oh, that was for my car, dear. The mechanic said my old one was a death trap, and Mark was just so sweet, he insisted I get something safe. He took care of it." She said it with a smile, like she was announcing a lottery win. She had no idea she was announcing the end of my marriage. I looked at Mark. The silence was deafening. He had taken half of the money we had saved for our dream, and used it to buy his mother a car. And just like with her moving in, he hadn't asked. He hadn't even told me. "You took our money," I said, the words falling like stones. "You took the money for our dream, gave it to her, and you didn't even have the decency to tell me." "It's not like that," he stammered, finally looking at me. "Her car wasn't safe. I had to do it. It's my mom. I had to do it." The same excuse as last time. The same justification for completely betraying our partnership. It was never a discussion. It was always his duty, his decision. This time, something inside me didn't just crack, it shattered. The hurt was gone, replaced by this cold, hard rage. "No," I said, my voice low and steady. "You didn't have to do anything. You chose to. You chose to disrespect me. You chose to disrespect our marriage. You chose to steal our future to solve a problem we should have figured out together." I snapped the laptop shut. "This is not a partnership. This is your life, with your mother as your main partner, and I am just living in it. You have made it perfectly clear that my feelings and my needs don't matter. You don't respect me, Mark. And I don't think I can live like this for one more day." I walked into our bedroom and closed the door on both of them. And for the first time in a long time, the silence felt like it was mine. After that fight, the silence in our house was heavy. It was thick with everything we weren't saying. Mark tried to apologize a few times over the next couple of days, but they were these weak apologies that missed the point entirely. "I'm sorry you're upset," or "I was just trying to do the right thing." He was apologizing for how I felt, not for what he did. He still didn't get it. I stopped trying to make him understand. I just stopped engaging. I moved through the house like a ghost, eating at different times, hiding in the bedroom as soon as I got home from work. I was building a wall around myself because it was the only way I could function. I was emotionally checking out. After 3 days of living like strangers, I packed a bag. I told him I was going to stay with my sister for a while. For the first time, I saw actual fear in his eyes. The idea of me physically leaving finally seemed to get through to him. "For how long?" he asked. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I need space. I need to be somewhere I don't feel invisible. I need to remember who I was before I became a side character in my own life." Staying at my sister's was like coming up for air after being held underwater. I could finally think clearly, away from the tension of my own home. I replayed everything, not just the last few months, but the last few years. I saw all the little moments of disrespect I had brushed off, the times I'd let it slide because he was being a good son. I realized the problem didn't start when his mom moved in. That was just when it all blew up. The real problem was his lack of respect for me as an equal, and my mistake in letting it go on for so long. After a week of soul-searching, I knew what I had to do. I agreed to meet Mark at a coffee shop. When I saw him, he looked exhausted. The week apart had clearly hit him hard too. I didn't waste time. I just laid it all out, my voice clear and steady. I cannot come back to the life we were living, I started. Our marriage is broken, Mark. It's broken because there is no respect. So this is the choice. Either we commit 100% to fixing this or we're done. I let that sink in. Fixing this means two things. First, we start couples counseling. Immediately. We need a professional to help us because we can't do this on our own. Second, we work together to set firm boundaries with your mother. She cannot live with us anymore. We will find her a great place that we both agree on, but our home has to be our home again. Our marriage has to be the priority. I told him to really think about it. I wasn't threatening him. I was just telling him the reality of the situation. He could have his old life, with his mother at the center, but he couldn't have that life with me in it. To his credit, he didn't hesitate. He started crying and said the week without me was the worst week of his life and that he would do anything. I won't lie, the process was brutal. Those first few therapy sessions were raw. I finally had a safe place to let out all the hurt and anger I'd been holding in, and for the first time, Mark actually listened. With the therapist guiding us, he started to understand how his role as a son had completely taken over his role as a husband. Telling Carol was one of the hardest things we've ever had to do. But we did it as a united front. We explained that for the health of our marriage, we needed our space back, and we had already found a wonderful assisted living community for her to look at. She was hurt, of course. But with Mark standing by my side, as my partner, she had to accept it. Our relationship today isn't the fairy tale I once thought it was. It's something much more real, and in a way stronger. It's a choice we make every single day. We're a work in progress. We still go to therapy. We make a point of making decisions together, even small ones, to rebuild the habit of being partners. He's slowly learning how to show respect with his actions, not just his words. The trip to Japan is back on the table, and we're saving for it again together. Rebuilding trust is a long road, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I have a partner who's willing to walk it with me. Realizing that the person you love doesn't respect you is a devastating feeling. It makes you question everything. But that painful moment is also an opportunity. It's the first step toward demanding the partnership you deserve. A real partnership isn't about big, romantic gestures. It's about the quiet, daily practice of mutual respect. It's about knowing your voice matters. It is possible to rebuild, but it requires both people to be willing to do the hard work. And it starts with you deciding you are worthy of more than being an afterthought in your own life. Have you ever had a moment that completely changed how you saw your relationship? Share your story in the comments. I read them all, and I think we can all learn from each other. Thanks for listening.